How are you doing?
Now, you got to give me some credit because I said to you privately a couple of times that your knowledge and your understanding of world events and the economy was extraordinarily impressive. And I didn't mean it. And I was explaining to you that you weren't a well-known entity or candidate, and you've been able through great debate performances to catapult yourself into the top tier and then catapult yourself to the top of this debate the other night. I think what I was trying to say to you is I saw this coming.
Well, I'll give you all the credit in the world, Sean.
No, but I mean, so it didn't surprise me at all because I'd spent the time actually interviewing you. I gave you a full hour on TV.
You have. That's exactly right. You have. Absolutely. And I give you a lot of credit for that because I said to you many times on your show, whether it was the radio or the television and privately, that when I've given opportunities to talk with people and they have an opportunity to get to know me, that's how I can build support. And I am deeply appreciative that you gave me a lot of those opportunities very early on. So thank you so much.
But it's sometimes to me, I don't know, for example, not being a known entity to me in terms of your political knowledge, I was impressed at a very deep understanding of complicated foreign policy issues with a knowledge that was beyond impressive that many politicians that I interviewed don't have even a base knowledge of. Does that make sense? And
yes.
That to me was impressive. So obviously you care a lot about these things and have taken the time to study these matters and think about them deeply. Well,
I think that's true, and thank you so much for saying that. But it also is true that I've been in these places. I've been in these places, and I've met many of these leaders. I've advised and sat down with our intelligence community and our military commanders. And so a lot of it is much more than reading about it. It's experiencing it. So, you know, when I was in, just to tell you a short story, I can remember being in Jordan in the Middle East and asking the driver if I could look at a map. And he gave me a map, and in the space on the map where Israel should be is a white space, no markings at all. And I asked him, what is this? And he said, oh, well, Israel doesn't exist. So you understand at a very different level than reading about it what it means when Iran chants death to Israel is we are going to wipe Israel off the face of the map because people in that region are looking at maps where literally Israel has been wiped away.
Let me ask you, go ahead, because listen, if Mein Kampf telegraphed Hitler's evil intentions and desires, then I would argue Iranian mullahs that repeatedly threaten to wipe Israel off the map, chant death to America, burn both of our flags, do not deserve, and are the number one state sponsor of terror, do not deserve $150 billion and the ability to spin centrifuges and build the missiles to deploy those weapons and to build up their conventional arms, which they are doing as part of this deal. It is the single dumbest deal I think I have ever heard of in my entire life. But not only is it dumb, to me it's a simple mathematical formula of 1 + 1 = 2. Radical Islamic mullahs that say they want to destroy Israel, coupled with weapons of mass destruction, equal the potential for a modern-day Holocaust. And that scares the crap out of me.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. And that's why on debate night on Wednesday night, I went further, I think, than actually anyone else on the stage in saying we have to do more than to cry this deal. We have to do something to stop the money flow, which is why I have said repeatedly and often on your show that what I will do is make sure that they cannot move the money because it is the money that is fueling their evil intentions. And by the way, we learned today that Russia now has fighter jets in Syria at air bases. And guess why they're there? Because General Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, the extraterritorial military operation of Iran, was dispatched to Russia to speak with Vladimir Putin. And the result of those negotiations was fighter jets in Syria. So this is an incredibly dangerous time.
It was interesting. You're echoing what Marco Rubio said at the debate, too, which I think is extraordinarily insightful. I think you're both right. And that is, I think, because of the vacuum that Barack Obama has created and the dwindling American influence in the world, and specifically in the Middle East, and the president being an unreliable ally for Israel, that, yes, I think Russia is reaching out to aid Syria. They'll do the same thing to Egypt. They'll do the same thing to Saudi Arabia. They'll say the Americans are unreliable, and their influence in that part of the world, which has been gone since the 1970s, will dramatically increase.
Well, that's right. And I think here's another possibility. Of course, Saudi Arabia and Syria and Iran are enemies, mortal enemies, actually. And so what you see happening already is the allies that we have not been strong for, Jordan, who has continually asked us for bombs and materiel, Egypt. Jordan is turning to China now for bombs and materiel. So now imagine we're creating a situation where we have Russia coming to the assistance of Iran and Syria. We have Iran, the supreme leader, stating that Israel will not exist in 25 years. We have Iran continuing to sow mischief, and we have some of our allies in desperation in their fight against ISIS turning to China. Boy, oh boy,
Scary.
That is a
That's
mess.
chilling. If that doesn't scare people, if that's not a warning sign, and by the way, it's all because of for whatever reason, it's inexplicable to me, Carly, that this president is doing this horrible deal with the Iranians and simultaneously ignoring our historic allies. And he is single-handedly creating or recreating new alliances that will not benefit the United States of America in the long term. That's chilling.
Well, and you know what's equally chilling to me, Sean, is the number of Democrat politicians who have folded, absolutely folded. And you know what it says to me? And many of them who ended up voting for this deal stated, quite eloquently actually, their fears and concerns about this deal, and they went ahead and voted for it anyway. So what does that say? What that says is the Democratic Party has such control over these people that they are more concerned about losing support and money for their reelection bids than they are the future of America. That is why, on both sides of the aisle, actually, people are sick of politics, and they're sick of politicians because the establishment wields a power that they should not wield over Republicans and Democrats alike, and people are just as frustrated, as I expressed on debate night Wednesday night, with our Republican leadership's lack of resolve to tackle these serious issues, whether it's Iran or whether it's Planned Parenthood.
Are you ready for the onslaught? You know, once you start doing better in the polls, the scrutiny level goes up dramatically. And I'm just going to give you a briefing of what I've read about you today that I assume are going to be issues that reporters that want to trip up anybody that is doing well in polls are going to throw at you. Quote, Trump was right about Hewlett-Packard sales versus the bottom line. The stockholders weren't happy. During your tenure, Hewlett-Packard sold materials and technology and information to the Iranians. Let's see, that you were part of the Clinton Global Initiative, that you were participants in some of their events. I'm sure this is all stuff that you have seen and read, but I figured I'd give you an opportunity to respond. To me, it's just the predictable onslaught that somebody receives when they start doing well.
Well, absolutely. And of course, as you and I have talked about many times, the facts of my HP record are clear. They're public. And not only are they clear and public and have been for eons here, of course, the Democrats don't care about that, so they push out their talking points. But I literally, as the chief executive of a public company, was criminally liable if I misrepresented those results in any way. Not a single other person on that debate stage has ever been held to that kind of accountability. So people can come up my track record about HP all day long. With regard to Iran, I'll remind your listeners as well, HP's budget is larger than any one of the 50 states in the United States of America. So I led an enterprise that is larger than any state. And in an enterprise that big, that is global as well, you can't possibly ensure that nothing ever goes wrong. The issue is when you find out something's wrong, what do you do about it? In this case, the case of Iran, 3 years after I left, HP discovered that a company that we were doing business with elsewhere in the Middle East was doing business with another company that was doing business in Iran. And as soon as they found that out, they cut off business ties with this original company in the Middle East. The SEC did a thorough investigation and concluded that no one in management, myself included, knew anything about it. And finally, with regard to the Clinton Global Initiative, yes, I went and spoke at the Clinton Global Initiative on 2 occasions. On one occasion, I was asked by Meet the Press to debate President Clinton's stage. I was happy to do so. And in the second instance, I went to lead a panel on entrepreneurship. I thought it was important to do that because Democrats are trying to claim that they are the party of small business entrepreneurship, and every policy they pursue crushes small business and entrepreneurship. And I thought the audience needed to know the other side of the story.
Yeah. By the way, I did see one poll post-debate that shows that you took a pretty significant jump after that. What did they have you at? I think it was like 17%. which I think is a pretty significant jump. And I think with 4.5 months to go, you've got to be pretty happy with that. Let me go into this whole Trump thing with you. And obviously you guys had your back and forth. I noticed I interviewed Donald Trump last night, and he referred to a comment that had been picked up by a hot mic that you had made about Barbara Boxer's hair some years ago. And my question is this: were you really offended by his comment? Do you even care about his comment? Because, people say horrible things about me all the time. And Carly, I don't really give a flying rip what anybody says. I really don't. I've gotten to that point in my life, and I get the impression you probably really don't care either.
Well, first of all, when I was first told about Donald Trump's remarks, I literally laughed out loud. And it's been interesting to me because people all over the country have been very sweet. Gentlemen in particular have come up to me and said, "Oh, I think you're beautiful." And I said, really, honestly, I don't care what Donald Trump thinks about my look. And also with regard to the Barbara Boxer comment, it wasn't a generous thing I said. And so I swore from that moment on that I would never make another remark about anyone's hair, no matter how tempting.
You should see my hair some days when I get up. I mean, it looks
well,
horrible.
When I was campaigning, I literally had no hair. I was bald because I had finished up chemotherapy and my cancer treatments, and so I was insufficiently insensitive to hair.
Yeah. Talk about that experience in your life and how it impacted you. You know what my life experience has been? That anybody that has been through a life-threatening disease seems to have a greater grasp on reality because that suffering seems to awaken them to like a higher level of understanding of life. How did it impact you? And tell us how bad it was.
Well, I think, first of all, Sean, you're very right, and we know that God teaches us that suffering brings us closer to Him, and that's true. I can attest to that, but that's true. I also think that, there's a sort of a flipped expression. Don't sweat the small stuff. But when you've been through a life-threatening disease or you've been through a terrible tragedy in your life, you really learn what that means. You gain a different sense of perspective. I am grateful for every day. I'm grateful for every year. I'm grateful for every birthday. And I've also learned in a deeper way that life, I think, is not measured in time. It's certainly not measured in money or headlines of fame. Life is measured in love, in positive contribution, and in moments of grace.
Well,
I hope my life is filled with those things.
Carly, congratulations. Great debate performance for you, and we love having you on. I think we have you booked for TV on Monday, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Great. I look forward to being with you, Sean. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for having me right from the very